Do you ever just stare at old box art for Lego sets? Like, for hours at a time? I do. I do it a lot. Do you ever notice when the pieces that you got in a set aren't quite what was advertised on the box? Like, I'm looking at my Chrome Crusher and I'm noticing there are several small differences. For instance, the mining laser on the box lacks any support for this rail along the side, which actually makes the connection point impossible for this alternate build. Another interesting difference are the large black wheels, as they seem to lack the central rounded section of the retail model. This detail, as well as several others, are the result of the use of prototype pieces in promotional photography. While we don't know when exactly this photography took place, chances are it was before September 1998, as this was when many of the particulars of the retail sets were finalized and communicated to DDI. At this point, you're probably wondering if the thumbnail and title were just clickbait. I promise we're getting to it, I promise. In certain circumstances, the box art had to be altered as new molds reached their final state. In extremely rare cases, this meant reshoots, as the new piece was just too jarring to ignore. More often than not, however, this took the form of photo touch-ups, a sort of early type of photoshopping. Notice the mining laser on the Rock Raiders HQ box? At a glance, it appears to be using the final retail mold. But when you really start looking at it, and I mean really start looking at it, the photo doctoring becomes obvious. The smoking gun here is on the back of the instruction manual, as you can get a glimpse of the unaltered photos. Imagine you are a Lego photographer in 1998. Besides prototype pieces and photo doctoring, what are you supposed to do if the part needed in the set just doesn't exist yet? That was the case for part 989. Looking at the front of the Chrome Crusher box again, we can see an unusual difference between the piece pictured and what was released. It almost looks like it's just a 1x2 brick with a 1x1 clip placed on top of it. Well, that's because it almost certainly is. Because Part 989 was still being developed leading up to its release in 1999, there was no finalized mold the photographers could use here. Instead, everyone had to get creative. As a result, not a single Rock Raiders box has the correct part on it, instead opting for clips and 1x2s. The Loader Dozer box proves to be the odd one out though, as in addition to the clips seen elsewhere, we also get a seemingly exclusive look at two different prototype molds for 989. One on the front of the box and the other on the top of the European release. These prototype molds show just how new and pioneering this ratcheted hinge connection point was for Lego, as no other series had yet dabbled with it. Well, nearly no other series. Lego Star Wars, the other dark meat. Believe it or not, but Lego Star Wars and Lego Rock Raiders share a unique bond, as both themes were developed during a similar time frame. Much of the same design principles were being explored in each series, and we can actually trace the development of this particular piece by looking at both themes. When we look at sets like the original X-Wing, we can see not only the use of clips like we saw with the Rock Raiders sets, but the cockpit window itself appears to be an alternate mold that has bar pieces for the clips to grab onto. For reference, here's what the retail set looks like. The bar elements we see in the promotional photography fully explain the clips, and shed some light as to why they were used in the Rock Raiders box art. Naturally, the next question is, was there ever a version of the Rock Raiders roll cage with bars instead of ratchets? Despite my best sleuthing efforts, I was unable to find any evidence to support this case. No promotional photography I viewed contained a roll cage with bars. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, though. We know there were several iterations of the piece, and it might have once even opened from the front. The search continues. LEGO Star Wars and LEGO Rock Raiders have a number of other shared molds that were introduced for both themes. These awesome sci-fi binoculars are another example. Contained in nearly every retail Rock Raider set, their LEGO Star Wars debut was with the original Snowspeeder. After that, these binoculars went on to have a long and happy career and still see use today. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about one of my favorite pieces introduced with these themes, Part 30303. Before being sadly retired in 2013, this piece saw use throughout the years in various science fiction sets, starting with LEGO Rock Raiders and LEGO Star Wars. I refer to LEGO Star Wars as the other dark meat because its development had a ton of overlap with that of Rock Raiders. As we've seen throughout this video, the two themes had a linked genesis, even if one clearly outgrew the other. For Rock Raiders fans, it's important to recognize the impact LEGO Star Wars had on our beloved theme. For fans of LEGO Star Wars, the opposite is also true. Many of these original sets would not be what they were without Rock Raiders, the long-lost twin. Thanks for watching, everyone. I've been your host, RR Slugger, and I'll see you next time for some more high adventure, deep underground.